Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael. Welcome to the Gas and Gavel video channel. Today, we are going to take a look at this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. This Porche Panamera Turbo is finished in a dark blue metallic exterior with a cognac natural leather interior. If you guys have been enjoying my car reviews here on the Gas and Gavel YouTube channel, I would truly appreciate it if you guys can subscribe to the channel. It would be the best way to help this channel grow and allow me to continue to bring you cool automotive related car reviews going forward. I appreciate all your support, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. So also leave a comment below or questions below. I love to interact with the audience. Now back to this review of this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. The first generation of the Porche Panamera was designated with the 970 and the 970.2 designation. The 970 first generation Porche Panamera was introduced in 2009 and ran all the way until 2016. The first generation Porche Panamera comes in two different lengths of vehicles. There is a normal wheelbase, which is what we see in front of us, and there is also an extended long wheelbase version of the Porche Panamera in the first generation. And the long wheelbase, or the extended wheelbase version of the Porche Panamera in the first generation will usually have some sort of emblem or name or insignia on the car that designates it executive. So anytime you see a first generation Porche Panamera with any sort of executive words around the trim or around the car, that designates the extended long wheelbase version of the Porche Panamera. Essentially, Porsche extends the rear, the length of the car a little bit, allowing the rear seats to have a lot more legroom. So in case you happen to be a lucky few who have a Porche Panamera Turbo S and you happen to have a chauffeur to drive you around in those back lounge seats, the extended wheelbase version may be the perfect choice for the young up-and-coming executive or business entrepreneur. The first generation Porche Panamera essentially composed of multiple trim levels, following the lines of the 911 Carrera trims. There is a base Panamera, there is a PanameراS, followed by a Porche Panamera 4, and then a Porche Panamera 4S, and then above that you have the Porsche GTS, and then slide above that at the upper echelons of the trim levels of the first generation Porsche Panamera is what you see here. This is the second to the highest trim level. This is the Porche Panamera Turbo, and slotted above this trim is the Porche Panamera TurboS. And as an offshoot, in 2016 there was a introduction of a Porche Panamera e-hybrid, but I'm going to keep that as a separate trim. That was essentially a hybridized version of the Porche Panamera, and that is also in a separate trim. But ultimately, the trim levels for the Porche Panamera follow very closely in line with the naming and the composition of the 911 Carrera trims. The Porche Panamera is essentially a 5-door liftback fastback sedan with 4 doors and a large opening hatchback. For the model year 2014, for the first generation Porche Panamera, there was a significant mid-cycle update, hence designating the 2014 later models as the 970.2. And those are the Panameras that feature the 2014 up mid-cycle update. There were many significant changes. For example, in the 2014 update, they updated the front and rear bumpers of the Porche Panamera. They also replaced the base 3.6 liter V6 in the base model with a more efficient V6 model. They dropped and removed the 6-speed manual transmission option. And there were such updated features and options such as switching from the standard bi-xenon and headlights to the full LED lamps, which this car fortunately does have that option. So again, we'll go over more of the 2014 mid-cycle updates in depth during the exterior, interior, and point of view driving tour of this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. The base MSRP of the 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo sedan came out to $141,000 before options in 2016. So basically, the Porche Panamera, essentially, Porsche wanted to create a 4-seat Grand Tourer with some sort of hatchback roof or trunk and hatchback roofline that basically evoked the look of the 2-door 911 coupe. So essentially, they wanted to create a 4-door hatchback sedan that essentially from afar and maybe even up close essentially looked like a 2-door coupe instead. And essentially, if you look at the exterior profile, definitely a lot of 911 type Carrera features, from that long sloping hood to that very aggressive carrera-like headlight designs, and going all the way to the back. If you ignore the extra door, you have this huge hatch area right here that makes the Panamera. But essentially this rear quarter panel definitely looks very 911 Carrera two-door coupe like. So again, this is essentially Porsche's shot at basically designing their own four-door Grand Tourer that essentially looks like a shooting brake, a la Mercedes-Benz CLS series Mercedes. So again, this is a 5-door hatchback with 4 seats, 2+2. And that was essentially the design idea behind the Porche Panamera. Let's take a look at the engine of this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. And here it is. The 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo is powered by this 4.8 liter V8 twin turbo motor. This twin turbo V8 motor pushes out 520 horsepower and 516 foot-pounds of torque. All that horsepower is routed to all 4 wheels via Porsche's all-wheel drive system. This 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo is powered by a 4.8 liter V8 twin turbo motor. This V8 twin turbo motor pushes out 520 horsepower and 516 foot-pounds of torque. This twin turbo Porsche V8 motor is matted to a 7-speed dual clutch PDK auto transmission, and all that 520 horsepower is sent to all 4 wheels via Porsche's 4-wheel drive all-wheel drive system. The 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo does the 0-60 in 3.9 seconds, or if you option for the Sport Chrono package, the 0-60 times actually drop to a respectable 0-60 in 3.6 seconds. This car has a top speed of 109 miles per hour. And runs the standing quarter mile at 11.5 seconds. The 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo gets an EPA estimated 15 city and 24 highway with an 18 miles per gallon combined. And if you option for the Porche PanameраS, this turbo motor gets an additional roughly 50 horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torque. The panameraturboS model pushes out a total of 570 horsepower and 553 foot-pounds of torque. Let's take a look at this twin turbo V8 motor from a car enthusiast perspective. And first things first is that one of the things I love about Porsches, especially the engine bay, is especially how clean everything is set up and built. There's always a very nice engine cover here. In this case, you have very nice Porsche manifold covers with the turbo logo etched on top on both sides. A kind of a subtle reminder to let you know that there are 2 turbos mounted to this V8. Right in front, you have this polished, etched 4.8 V8 insignia right in front. Everything just the engine bays of many Porsches from older generations to newer generations. The engine bay is always just so clean. Another favorite aspect in this car is I love the front of the V8 motor. You have all that intercooler and intake piping snaking all the way around, all the way to the front, looping up to the front, and you can see that it's attached to this huge, essentially ram air intake, channeling air from that front grille upwards into these two ram air intakes, all the way through all that piping, probably through an intercooler, and right into that 4.8 liter V8 motor. Very, very nice. It's just such a clean, aggressive setup, and it's also functional. But again, I think one of the most beautiful parts about the Porche Panamera Turbo's motor is definitely this front section with all this different intercooler piping attached to the turbos, attached to this ram air intake, and everything just looks good and serves a purpose to send cool air to this turbocharged motor. Again, definitely very clean. I love how everything is so accessible. You have essentially caps for every which fluid that you may need to work on. The engine oil cap is bright and center in a yellow, easy to reach. I love how user-friendly everything is and how accessible everything is. Let's take a look at the key that you get when you purchase your 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. And here it is. So one of my favorite things about Porsche keys, especially these newer generation Porsches, is essentially that the Porsche key is essentially a mini model of essentially your Porsche. It definitely has a lot of design details, very car-like remote without looking cheesy or tacky. I love that. The remote, although is light and made of mostly hard black plastic, they do have a very nice silver trim right in front of what would be the hood of the car with that golden Porsche emblem, that golden red. Very, very nice. I love that little detail. Beyond the design aspects, you have numerous electronic functions. You have a lock to lock your car, to unlock your car, and the biggest feature of this car, of course, is the huge hatchback, and you can open that powered hatchback using this button right here. Very nice. A lot of functionality, very light, and in case of emergencies, you do have a panic button right in the back of that key. Again, love the mini models of the Porsche keys, and this car just has very straightforward function and design. Very, very nice. Great job. And here is the key that you get when you do purchase your 2016 Porsche Panamera Turbo. You get matching shields. Let's begin the exterior tour of this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo, and we'll start with the front end. This specific 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo features the beautiful mid-cycle update optional LED headlight upgrade. So the early generation of the first generation Porche Panamera featured essentially standard bi-xenon headlights. In the 2014 mid-cycle update, they gave consumers an option to upgrade to these beautiful for a fee, essentially full LED Porsche headlights. These full Porsche LED headlights also features the PDLS Plus system, which is Porsche's Dynamic Light System Plus. The dynamic main beam headlight detects light from oncoming vehicles, and essentially there's a camera mounted in the front that allows basically the lighting to adapt depending on exterior conditions. It's essentially Porsche's version of a smart headlight. Swivels and turns every which way to help with the safety of your Porche Panamera Turbo. The front LED high beams and low beams are essentially housed in these two tubular light housings, arranged in essentially a step fashion. One on top of the other. They look really great, they look really aggressive, and they look very, very bright. Inside there is an integrated LED turn signal. The headlights are designed in this very angular Carrera-esque coupe fashion. Definitely very reminiscent of the Carrera GT. And definitely shares a lot of Porsche Carrera DNA in this Porche Panamera headlight design. The upgraded LED headlights are housed in a black housing trim with a silver LED halo around the LED high beams and low beams. There's an integrated LED sequential light, and the turn signal has been moved from the headlight housing down to the front bumper, where you have essentially a dual stacked, very cleanly integrated LED turn signal. That matches very well with that front bumper. Again, this is the combination headlight of the updated 2014 mid-cycle update LED headlights with the updated mid-cycle front turn signals and front bumper. Great headlight housing on this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. And here is your 2014 mid-cycle updated Porche Panamera Turbo specific front bumper. So the 2014s not only feature an updated front bumper that just has much more cleaner lines and ducts, the Turbo actually has its own turbo specific front bumper, which features essentially much more aggressive side ducts, a much more aggressive front duct that is definitely all functional, and essentially all those ducts are painted a matching body color with an integrated, what looks like to me, lower side spoilers, giving it that aggressive look. I do love how clean it looks, and I do like how the lower side front spoilers kind of stop at the center. I think this really helps with front ground clearance, but still gives the Panamera that aggressive look that we expect in a turbo model. Again, the Turbo front bumper features these dual stacked integrated LED turn signals. There are integrated parking sensors, as you can see. There is an integrated amber side marker. There are headlight washers integrated into the front bumper. But overall, if you squint your eyes a little bit, you can definitely see the Porsche Carrera 911 Turbo-esque design in the front bumper, from that classic flat back painted huge front air ducts that definitely channel air to those huge Brembo brakes, and also provides some sort of cooling. I believe that is either the radiator or intercooler. And the front has that ram air system with what looks like an oil cooler mounted up front. And the driver's side also has this huge radiator vent, possibly intercooler, sending air, cool air to those turbos. So again, everything is functional and it's designed very beautifully. One of the cleanest designed front bumpers. And if you just stood and looked at the front of this car, you would think that essentially it was a two-door Carrera and not this huge, long four-door hatchback. To match the look and the inspiration of the two-door Carrera, you do have this long front hood, very reminiscent of the two-door Carrera coupe. It looks almost as if it's pulled off a two-door Carrera coupe. In the center, there's these clean two V bulges that essentially provide like a kind of muscular center channel that gives you a tease of what's underneath that hood, which is that 520 horsepower V8 twin turbo motor. And finishing off, that long sloping and might I mention very, very light aluminum Porche Panamera hood is this beautiful gold and red Porsche crest that I believe matches very nicely with that dark metallic paint. The front fenders of the Panamera Turbo feature these black colored fender strakes insert. From closer inspection, the side fender vents do look functional. It looks like there's outlets here to channel air out, possibly to help cool the brakes and aerodynamic purposes. And on top of that fender strake, there is a integrated LED side marker. And this color trim can be had in many different colors, from carbon fiber to this black painted finish to a silver finish, just depending on the trim of Panamera that you have. You know, one thing I wanted to know about what was missing from the exterior of the Panamera, since we're talking about fenders, is the fact that if you look at other Porsche models, such as the Carrera and the Carrera Turbo and versus the base Carrera, usually the turbo versions of any of the Porsche Carreras would feature essentially widened front and rear fenders. It's unfortunate that the Panamera Turbo versions of the Panamera didn't have that some sort of again, widened front and rear fenders that would set it away from the base trim models of the Panamera. Car still is clean, but I wish that I think this car would look a whole lot better with just a little bit of widened front fenders as well as widened rear fenders. But in the Turbo Panamera, all you get again are these functional and decorative fender strake inserts. Let's take a look at the wheel and tire package of this 2016 Porsche Panamera. To note, in the standard trim of the Porsche Turbo Panamera, the car comes with 19-inch wheels as standard. This car is fortunately spec'd with the upgraded 20-inch Porsche optional wheel and tire package. And now let's take a closer look at that upgraded 20-inch staggered wheel and tire package of your Porsche Panamera Turbo. And here it is. This specific 20-inch upgraded wheel option for the Porche Panamera Turbo is called the 20-inch 911 Turbo Design wheels. This one is finished in a shiny black, but can also had in silver and many other color option finishes. These 20-inch turbo design alloy wheels with machine faces are wrapped in a 255/40 Z-rated tire up front. These multi-spoke, almost racing mesh-like 20-inch wheels feature the Porsche logo in the center, a shiny painted base, and behind these huge 20-inch tires and wheels, you do have these equally huge and aggressive 6-piston Porsche branded with that white Porsche etching. I'm sure these are probably supplied by Brembo. These huge, almost equal to the size of that 20-inch wheel face, this huge red brake caliper. This huge brake caliper has 6 pistons and are matched to equally cross-ventilated steel rotors, the front measuring 390 millimeters by 38 millimeters. They look great. And lastly, I do want to note that for the 2016 model year of the Porche Panamera, there was an option to option carbon ceramic brakes in the turbo model for a fee, a large fee. I want to note that the PanameراS has the carbon ceramic brakes as standard. This car does not have it, but you'll see in a review later that this car doesn't really need the carbon ceramic brakes. The standard stainless steel brakes with the ventilated rotors look equally as nice and aggressive and function just as well. Great aggressive wheel and tire package up front in your Porche Panamera Turbo. I think that black finish face contrasts very well with that dark midnight blue paint, giving it a very menacing look. And then the entire front wheel tire package is finished off with that race red huge Porsche caliper up front. Great contrast with that metallic blue paint and the amber and then that red and that black, and then back out again. Very nice, very aggressive. Definitely gives this car a very subtle, menacing look. Let's go ahead and swing to the rear. This 20-inch wheel and tire package is staggered. The rears measure a much wider 295 35 20-inch tire. Definitely much wider. The rear features that multi-spoke black finish base with the center gold and red Porsche emblem in the center. In back, you do have smaller but equally nice looking 4-piston calipers with the Porsche etching in the rear, painted a red race red. And those are attached to 350 millimeter by 28 millimeter ventilated rear stainless rotors. One thing I do like about the rear staggered set of Porsche 911 design wheels is that if you look at the rear, the OEM offset has this really cool, almost kind of concave finish to the rear tire. Very nice, giving it really that aggressive deep dish concave look to the rear, whereas the front has a slightly less aggressive offset. But again, I love this look of this staggered wheel up front And then you have this, again, much more aggressively offsetted staggered rear tire with, again, that concave face. It's very subtle. I think that makes a world of difference, especially in looks, when you are looking at the wheel and tire package. And that is your 20-inch optional Porsche staggered wheel setup. And there are other looks and designs, but again, these are the 911 design wheel package. Scrolling down, the Porche Panamera Turbo features this very clean body colored side skirt. These side skirts carry over the Porche Panamera's more just subdued, subtle look. There are no aggressive angles or bends in the side skirts. It is just a body colored, body matched design that just gives a side profile a very clean line and clean finish. That just accentuates the side profile of a Porche Panamera. The side mirrors of your Porche Panamera feature this bicolor design look with a black or flat back finished bottom with a body colored top. These are powered and heated. They do have side view mirrors or side view cameras or your 360 camera option. They are powered and they are heated, and they look very, very clean on this Porche Panamera Turbo. And of course, what makes the Porche Panamera the Porche Panamera is the addition of these two side rear doors and of course a rear hatch. But we'll start with the side windows. Two of my favorite features of the side windows are essentially, I really love when cars have these little corner pieces of glass. Porsche could have easily used a piece of plastic and covered this up, but I love how just integrating this little small triangle piece of glass not only allows for a better visual field when you're driving up front, but also allows just a little bit more light into that beautiful cognac interior. Conversely, I love how the rear window or the rear door also has its own small triangle mirror. You can't open and close it, but again, Porsche could have easily went with a piece of plastic and saved money, but by integrating this additional side glass allows for just better rear forward visibility and just more light for the rear seat passengers to enjoy. And of course, this entire window trim is trimmed in a black finish, although there are some trims that allow the option of a silver trim, but I think this black window finish contrasts really well with those black finish wheels and the darker menacing paint. The front and rear door handles are body colored. Very simple design, very strong, very aggressive. They are also one touch, allowing you to just touch and grab to open the doors. The rear door of the Porsche Panamera looks like it has an integrated from the factory 3M protective finish on that door panel to prevent rock chips on your rear passenger side door. Now we'll transition to the back of the Porsche Panamera, and take a look at what really makes the Porche Panamera a Porche Panamera. So, because essentially, as we're doing the exterior review of the front, that's all Porsche Carrera right there. This back here is what really makes or breaks a Porche Panamera. As of course, it's the 2 extra doors in the rear and this huge hatch with a sloping roof, reminiscent of a Porsche Coupe's rear upper quarter panels. So let's take a closer look at the rear end of this Porche Panamera Turbo. Up top, this Porsche does feature a factory sunroof with a manual integrated sunshade. And when you open up the sunroof, there is a mechanical windscreen that deploys on its own. Really nice feature, luxurious feature for the roof, allowing more air and light into the interior of your cognac natural leather interior. And at the end of the roof, you do have a very subtle integrated body colored antenna in the center. And on the passenger side rear quarter panel is your gas gauge to access your gas cap to fill up that V8 twin turbo. I'm sure it's very thirsty. Now let's go take a look at the most controversial angle of the Porche Panamera for all enthusiasts, and essentially it is all this rear end here. But let's turn this Panamera around and get a little more sunlight so we can see that rear. Go. So let's start the rear end tour of this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo, starting with the most controversial aspect of the rear, which is essentially this rear hatch here. So Porsche basically wanted to make the Panamera essentially a 4-door car that looks essentially like a 2-door coupe, and wanted to evoke the lines of the 911 2-door Carrera from, again, that sloping front hood to those angular headlights. But essentially they wanted 4 doors, and this rear hatch is essentially what makes this a Panamera. Essentially it allows this car to have essentially 4/5 doors with a complete opening hatch. You saw how big the trunk was in the trunk tour. So essentially this rear quarter panel is molded or designed to essentially look like the rear hump or the rear top quarter panel of the 911 Carrera. The rear hatch of your Porche Panamera features a heated rear piece of glass. This rear glass is factory tinted with a nice bronze tint. Up top, there's an integrated third LED brake light integrated to the top of that hatch. And at the bottom of the hatch, you do have a little rubber button here, conspicuously mounted dead center. And when you press this button, as such, you open up that powered hatch. Hence Panamera, 5 doors, hatchback. And closing it up. Mounted in the center of the Panamera's hatch is these factory Panamera Turbo emblems finished in a bright silver, allowing you and people behind you to know that you're not only in a Panamera, but you are in the essentially the top 2 trims of the Panamera with that turbo emblem mounted in the center. And another surprise hiding in this Panamera rear hatch that makes this Panamera Turbo a Panamera Turbo is essentially right below the glass and above the Panamera Turbo logo, there is what looks essentially like nothing but a black painted piece of plastic. But this plastic hides a nice surprise, actually 3 surprises. This hides Porsche's essentially active aero rear spoiler. And in the Porche Panamera Turbo, this spoiler is actually very cool. It is actually, it can open 3 ways, and it can be opened with a push of a button or at a certain speed. But when you get to the most aggressive setting of it, essentially this whole entire spoiler pops up, and then these 2 side pieces slide open to the left and right, and it creates a giant pedestal spoiler that is specific to the Porche Panamera Turbo. And we'll go ahead and play a video now of those 3 settings of this rear spoiler. Again, this active aero mechanical rear spoiler that is essentially 3 movable pieces all integrated into one that folds away nicely and cleanly to give you back that clean hatchback look. It's exclusive to the Porche Panamera Turbo trim. And we'll go and play the video of the 3 settings of this rear spoiler of your Porche Panamera Turbo. And this is what the spoiler looks like when it's fully deployed in the most aggressive setting. So essentially the 2 pieces rise up and then essentially extend outwards, creating this huge pedestal wing that I feel actually makes the rear end look so much better. And I can see why Porsche gives you the option of essentially raising the spoiler whenever you want, even when it's parked, because I think even designers saw that, hey, this really aggressive pedestal spoiler actually really does something to fix the awkward look of the first generation rear hatch area. Rear quarter panel awkward looks. I don't know what it is, but the again, this deployable Panamera specific rear spoiler provides functionality and also visual appeal. It's like a mix of a pedestal wing with a duckbill spoiler, definitely reminiscent of the Porsche duckbill spoilers of the past. Except it's composed of 3 mechanical pieces. Very, very nice. And that is your all your features of your hatch, with the best feature, I believe, being this active aero multi-piece rear spoiler. Another interesting feature of this particular Porche Panamera Turbo that we're reviewing today also features, at first when I was looking at it, I wasn't sure whether it was OEM or not, but after a lot of research and Googling and confirming with the owner of this vehicle, this again, this car is a first generation Porche Panamera Turbo. And if you remember, the first generation Porche Panamera Turbo had these like ovalish taillights, whereas the second generation had much more sleeker angular taillights. So what's going on here? I mean, this is a 2016 first generation, but what's up with these angular taillights? So this Porche Panamera is actually supposed to come with all red LED ovalish taillights that are quintessential first generation mid-cycle update did Panamera first generation taillights. And after a little bit of research, I found out there's a company, I'm not sure the name of the company, but if I do find out the name, I will put it on the description below. Essentially, they make a taillight replacement that essentially gives you, they basically sell you a replacement taillights for your first generation Panamera Turbo, and these replacement taillights are essentially supposed to emulate the second generation Porche Panamera taillights. So this is an actual image from the company themselves. They show you a before picture, and after you install their taillights, you essentially get the essentially a second generation sleeker LED Porche Panamera taillight looks without having to do all these conversions. So if you look very closely at this taillight from afar, it looks like, oh man, this is a second generation Porche Panamera, but it's not. If you look very closely, these are LED taillights. They are aftermarket, not OEM. They do feature an LED light strip. And at first I thought the top of the tail light was actually a vinyl covering, but it's actually not. This top piece sold to you by the company is actually a body color trim piece that essentially is installed on top of your new aftermarket taillights, essentially giving you the look of the second generation Panamera taillights in your first generation Panamera rear. And I feel that this aftermarket option is probably pretty popular because I feel like the biggest design dislike of the first generation Porche Panamera are definitely those ovalish, non-aggressive looking rear taillights, whereas these aftermarket replacements gives you that sleek angular look of the second and most current generation Porche Panamera, but in your first generation Porche Panamera. And for my research, this taillight conversion is actually not too expensive. It's a little under 2,000 retail, and you can look on third-party websites such as eBay, and you'll find it. But I'll do more research and find the actual name of the company that makes it. But it seems like there are several companies that do. But I think they look great. I would have preferred if this car had the OEM taillights for this review, but you know, the owner took it upon himself to fix that one single design flaw. So again, they look great. But again, as a reminder, these are not the OEM first generation Porche Panamera taillights. So what do you think? Do these updated aftermarket taillights look great, or are they kind of cheesy and look cheap? Let me know what your thoughts are about these aftermarket taillights that make your first generation Panamera look like a second generation Porche Panamera in the rear, especially in the taillight section. This 2016 Porche Panamera also features that huge mid-cycle update in the rear bumper. This is the mid-cycle updated Porsche 970.2 rear bumper. It features a body colored integrated rear lower diffuser. It is much more angular than the earlier generation of the first generation Porsche Panamera, and features these really cool integrated, essentially red reflectors and parking sensors integrated into the rear bumper. And tying everything together on this Porsche Turbo specific rear bumper with the 2014 mid-cycle updated bumper style are these huge quad tip slant cut with chrome tips, variable exhaust, and this exhaust that you see here is actually the almost $4,000 Porsche Performance Race exhaust that is variable. That again allows you to adjust the loudness by adjusting the internal baffles of this exhaust, and probably provides a few more horsepower and a more aggressive note. Again, this Porsche Turbo does feature this optional Porsche Race factory variable exhaust, and that exhaust is again cleanly integrated into that lower rear diffuser. Very clean, very aggressive, and I think it ties off the rear end of your Porche Panamera perfectly. And we'll go ahead and play a clip of the exhaust note for you now. Let's take a look at the trunk of your 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. And here is your trunk. As a reminder, you can easily open that powered rear hatch trunk using your Porsche key remote. Give it a good click, and the whole entire trunk opens automatically for you, revealing what makes a Panamera a Panamera, which is essentially this huge hatchback that allows you to access this huge trunk space to store all of your belongings and valuables. The first thing I want to mention before I jump into the trunk space is I just love how the trunk carpeting has that matching beautiful cognac colored carpeting that matches that cognac interior of this Porche Panamera. And not only does the color match, but it's all lined with this like very soft touch kind of home carpet material. Very, very nice. So this trunk may not seem as a lot, but this Porsche's Panamera trunk holds a surprise. In fact, there's two configurations for the trunk. Configuration number one is back seats up, which is what you see here in standard configuration. With the rear seats up, you have roughly 15.7 cubic feet of space. This trunk of your Panamera also hides this surprise here. Essentially, the rear seats of your Porche Panamera Turbo fold essentially completely flat, and once that's folded down with the hatch open, and if you imagine if you remove this privacy divide, you essentially have this huge open trunk space. Once you open this huge hatch, you could just imagine how big that trunk space would be to allow you to fit pretty much any large boxes or large items. And when you lower those rear seats of your Porche Panamera, you get an additional, essentially total cubic feet of roughly about 45 cubic feet of space. And that is, or this is probably the main reason why people choose the Porche Panamera, is due to this huge, essentially open hatch space with a fold down rear trunk, allowing you to essentially convert your entire half of your rear half of your Porche Panamera from the driver passenger seat rearwards as essentially convenient storage, which is great. And the seats fold right back up very, very easily. Again, very versatile space. And truly, this is what makes the Porche Panamera a Porche Panamera. Inside the trunk, you have various separated compartments. I love how Porsche trunks are always so organized, like the engine bay. Essentially, on the left and right, you have these two side nettings that essentially cordon off these little side areas to allow you to essentially store various items on the side so they don't roll around. And in one of the storage compartments up here, you do have a 12-volt charging plug in case you are tailgating or you need to charge something in your trunk. You do have an additional charging point or power port mounted right in the trunk on the driver's side. Very, very nice. There are various tie down points. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, you do have this cognac colored removable privacy shade to help protect your belongings from essentially crooks and thieves and the blistering rays of the sun. So that's great to have, and this is completely removable, allowing you to again have a completely fold down rear hatch trunk. Underneath the trunk carpeting, you do have a little handle right up front, and giving a good pull, you do have access to your there's no full-size spare, but there is a air pump. You have your front toe jack. You do have again various items to essentially help refill your tire. On the right side, this car is equipped with the optional Burmester, optional Porsche high-end stereo system. And I believe back here is either the amplifier or the subwoofer. I'm gonna say it's either the sub or the amp. But it does have that really cool Burmester logo. Very, very nice. And it's great that they put it back here. Great weight distribution. Very, very nice. I love how there is a protective, essentially stainless steel shield placed right here in case you do need to put heavy items. You can protect your trunk edge there. Up top on the hatch, it is a powered trunk, so it's very nice that you're able to, again, hands-free, go ahead and press this button here and the whole trunk will close right up for you. And that is the trunk of your 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. Let's begin the interior tour of this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo, and we'll start with the driver's side door panel. And here it is. This Porche Panamera is finished in a beautiful, optional cognac natural leather interior. The Porsche natural leather definitely feels softer. It has a matching cognac cross stitch all throughout that soft, supple leather, and it extends all throughout the entire door panel of the driver's side. The owner of this particular Porche Panamera Turbo has chosen to contrast that cognac natural leather with a dark brown wood grain insert with contrasting silver trim. Definitely a very classy looking color. At the center of the driver's side door panel, you do have a very thick and heavy duty stainless steel door handle with that matching stainless steel trim. Integrated into that door panel, you do have your lock and unlock buttons, and also within that silver trim is your memory seating for your 18-way adjustable Porche Panamera Turbo seats. Scrolling out, the driver's side armrest and door handle is wrapped in that completely natural cognac leather with contrasting cognac cross stitch. Underneath that, there's this nifty little compartment that opens up a little bit that allows you to have a little bit of storage compartment. And this little storage compartment in the door panel has definitely a soft felt tip lining on the inside to protect electronics. But again, a little extra storage in there that tucks away nicely. Right next to that is all your soft touch window switches for all 4 of your doors. You have your side mirror controls, and you also have your side mirror camera controls. This car does have 360 cameras integrated into the side view mirrors. And to finish off this very rich door panel of your Panamera, down at the bottom right, this car is equipped with the optional high-end Burmester optional sound system, and the front speaker has their logo etched right into it with a silver trim. Very nice integration. At the bottom there is a door light. And this is just a beautiful cognac color, is just a beautiful spec and contrasts very well with that dark blue metallic exterior paint. And that is the driver's side door panel of your 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. The door sill features Porche Panamera Turbo specific door sill inserts in stainless steel with the turbo logo etched in. Very nice. You do get matching Porsche branded cognac colored carpet. The Porche Panamera Turbo features these rubber and stainless steel footrest, brake, and accelerator pedal. To the left of the pedal there is this handle. This is to open the front hood of your Porche Panamera. And cycling out, here are the seats in your Porche Panamera Turbo. These are the 2016 base seats. They are 18-way adjustable, heated and ventilated, and they are completely covered in that beautiful, rich cognac extended natural leather. At the base of the seats are your seat controls. They are finished in very sturdy, almost heavy metal knobs and switches. What I love most is this button here, which is essentially the electronic lumbar support. There is options, for example, of getting the Porsche logo etched into the headrest, and there are also options for a sport design front seats that are much more aggressively bolstered. These are the standard seats. They look great nonetheless, and they are a perfect blend of luxury, comfort, and performance. Now let's jump into the driver's seat and see what the cockpit looks like in your 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. And here we are. I really love the spec of this vehicle. The entire dash is wrapped in that very warm, soft touch cognac natural leather interior. Your first generation Porche Panamera Turbo steering wheel essentially definitely looks like it was pulled from a older 911 Carrera. It's not the nicest, but it's decent. And I do want to note that there is an option in the 2016 model year of the Porche Panamera Turbo for a sport design steering wheel, and that steering wheel looks a lot more modern. This car did not come spec'd with it, but again, if you're looking for a modern steering wheel, the Porche Panamera Turbo does offer a more sporty, modern tri-spoke steering wheel designed by Porsche, and that one has a lot of stainless steel and looks a lot more modern than this one. Although the entire steering wheel here wrapped in that cognac color, it does vibe well but some may see the steering wheel and call it dated. I call it classic. I'll leave it up to you to decide. So the steering wheel has the Porsche center crest in classic gold, red, and black hues. The center horn is placed behind that. In the center, above the emblem, you do have a what looks like from afar, it just looks like a PDK etching, but in actuality, when you start up the car and you go into any sort of the drive modes, for example, I'm going to Sport Plus, the Sport Plus sign lights up here in the that little screen. So it's kind of like a small little electronic cluster that tells you what driving mode you're in, reminds you that you have a dual clutch transmission from Porsche called the PDK. And depending on what mode you're in, so if you're in Sport, it'll tell you that you're just in Sport. If you're in Sport Plus, it'll tell you that you're in Sport Plus. It's just a unique way to again, remember driving modes. So that's a little cool feature of the steering wheel. This car is a PDK auto manual, so there is an option of going into manual mode and shifting yourself. And if you look at the silver trim buttons to the left and right of the steering wheel, this is what you use to essentially shift up and down. You essentially click down to shift down and press up to shift up, or vice versa from the back. The left and right essentially do the same thing. The sport design steering wheel actually has much more modern rear paddle shift knobs that go up and down. But again, this is the I assume probably the earlier generation PDK auto manual. So the shifting is done more of buttons, not really paddles. I would prefer paddles, but this is what you get in the first generation PDK steering wheel. To the left of the steering wheel, you do have various electronic functions. Here you can control your Apple CarPlay, your Android Auto, Bluetooth. This button here is to adjust the single digital screen in the instrument cluster. That allows you to cycle between, for example, a smaller version of your map, or it can show your tire pressure monitor system, or it can show you your current trip mileage. It essentially allows you to cycle through that single electronic screen in the analog instrument cluster. The steering wheel is wrapped and cross-stitched in that cognac natural leather. And this entire steering wheel is powered, and it does move up and down and tilt forward and backwards via a electronic button located beneath the steering wheel here. The stalks behind the steering wheel to the left, you have your electronic cruise control. You have your turn signal stalk up top. And on the right, you have your windshield washer controls. Behind the steering wheel, the instrument cluster found in the 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo consists of a hybrid analog with a single electronic screen. So I'm going to go ahead and start up the car and show you what that looks like. So the gauges, if you look closely, they definitely remind me of a 911 Carrera design with the 5 rings. The center analog gauge is your tachometer. To the left of that, you have your speedometer, and all the way to the left, you do have your oil temperatures and your engine oil level. And then all the way to the right, you have your engine temps and your current gas tank level. And over here, Porsche treats you with a small digital screen that allows you to change or toggle between multiple different electronic screens. So right now I'm in the map navigation. I can switch it to my telephone or my trip distance trip, my TPS monitors. This one is a Sport Chrono, so this is part of the Sport Chrono package. It's essentially a stopwatch to race with. Very cool. Here's your lane departure system, and you can also display a digital essentially health readout of your car with boost pressure, engine oil, so on and so forth. That's pretty cool. You also have your audio electronic screen. For me, I usually leave out the navigation, and I do like the fact that in the first generation Porche Panamera, it's nice and refreshing to see an analog gauge cluster with a little mix of digital screens, whereas nowadays in 2025 most of the new Porsches just essentially come with iPad screens for the instrument clusters. So I do like the kind of like the classy look with the with a little bit of a modern touch with that electronic screen squeezed into it. Definitely really great looking and easy to read. And of course, right dead center in your instrument cluster that you can only find in your Panamera Turbo is the turbo logo etched right in dead center of that speedometer with that 6,500 RPM red line. Of course, all the gauges are blacked out and it's surrounded by that cognac leather surrounding the top of the entire dash. That cognac leather runs all the way across. It's very beautiful here in the sunlight. It wraps that airbag all the way up. Your passenger is treated to this huge wood grain piece integrated between the top of the dash, which has the airbag, and the bottom of the passenger side dash, which hides and stows away 2 things. The first thing is a lockable storage compartment. The glove compartment is lined in this very soft felt material and stores a good amount. This person has chosen to put their owner's manual and, in true enthusiast fashion style, their front license plate in the glove compartment. Kudos to that. And of course, the entire glove compartment is wrapped in that natural leather, and it is lockable. Another hidden component in this Porche Panamera is a hidden trim piece. So if you see between the wood grain and the glove compartment, there's this silver trim here. This silver trim is more than just fashion. If you click the center portion, the whole thing drops down, and essentially there are 2 fold-out cup holders that essentially pop out. Now these, if you see my other Porsche reviews, especially of this generation, these are not the strongest cup holders. I would not recommend putting any sort of heavy drinks on there, but in a jam you can put drinks in there. Just be aware that these are flimsy, and in other Porsche models I have seen these broken very easily. So again, be careful. You wouldn't want to spill your big gulp all over your Porsche natural leather seat. So again, I do like the way they integrated and hidden away these cup holders, I just wish that Porsche in this first generation would have made it a little more sturdy, but it does hide away very nicely. In the center of the dash, up top, lies a very, very special clock. So this center mounted chronograph clock only comes in the what Porsche likes to call the Sport Chrono package. So the Sport Chrono package gives you a hodgepodge of unrelated features in your Porche Panamera, but I highly recommend that you find one spec'd with this option. With the Sport Chronograph package, you essentially get this analog, very cool looking, very sporty, single integrated clock located in the center of your Porche Panamera dash. But by getting this clock in the center, you unlock two really huge performance options in your Porche Panamera. Who would have thought that adding a clock to your car would make your Porche Panamera even faster? In fact, it does. So when you add the Sport Chronograph package, you basically unlock a hidden, basically super aggressive race mode called Sport Plus. So in regular Porche Panameras, you only have two basic driving modes from the factory, normal and sport. By optioning for the Sport Chrono package with that center mounted analog clock right there, you get an additional button called Sport Plus. And what Sport Plus is essentially, so the Sport Chronograph package essentially again unlocks this Sport Plus mode, and Sport Plus mode is essentially the ultimate race mode for the Porche Panamera. Essentially, when you turn on the Sport Plus mode, essentially the whole car offers an even sharper throttle response. It firms up the suspension even more so than in sport mode, and allows for faster PDK shifts. The option of the Sport Chronograph package also allows you to add launch control to your Porche Panamera Turbo, and the shifting of the suspension essentially is set to a much more aggressive gear setting for performance driving. The Sport Chronograph package also adds Porsche active drivetrain mounts. This essentially reduces engine movement for a more direct feel in steering. Of course, you get the dash mounted stopwatch with clock. And with this comes a bunch of Porsche performance displays, such as lap times, G-forces, and other driving data through the multimedia screen. And lastly, Sport Plus gives you a much more aggressive dampening option. So for example, the adjustable damping button here actually has two settings instead of one. The first setting is Sport setting, and then the second setting, when you click it twice, you get the Sport Plus setting, which is essentially the most aggressive, hardest dampening that you can get in the air suspension in this Porsche. So all that, when you option this clock, definitely well worth it. And the best thing about optioning the Sport Chronograph package is the fact that you actually make your Porsche faster because of it. So for example, in the Porche Panamera Turbo, without the Sport Chronograph package, the 0 to 60 time is 3.9 seconds. But if you option for the Sport Chronograph package with the Sport Plus option, the 0 to 60 times for your Porche Panamera Turbo drops down to a 0 to 60 time of 3.6 seconds, a roughly 0.3 second improvement, and that's pretty good. So again, sport chronograph package. You get so much with it. Definitely find a Porsche Panamera with this option. Just look for the center clock. Your center console features this Porsche multimedia system. It is a touchscreen. It has an integrated map, integrated navigation. There is a radio tuner, also media tuner. There are numerous sources. You can listen to AM, FM radio. There's satellite. There's options for, yes, a CD player. There is a CD player slot. There's also a USB connector device that allows you to hook up your phone to stream music. And there's also an option to stick in some sort of essentially SD card loaded music, and you can load it into your quote-unquote jukebox. You can make telephone calls when you hook it up via Bluetooth. And this car does also come with different car settings. I do like how the 2016 Porsche Panamera has this really unique, like, it does have a touchscreen, but it has all the related corresponding analog buttons right underneath that. Again, in the age of 2025, when most new Porsches, or most new cars in general, essentially have like a iPad screen for your multimedia screen and another iPad screen for your instrument cluster. It's nice to see a nice little mix of touchscreen technology and also these great feeling tactile type of analog buttons. Some people might find this cluttery. I find it essentially it's very comforting for a person who grew up with 2000 eras cars. You have analog buttons for your tuning and for your volume. Underneath that, you do have a series of buttons that essentially is a combination of your climate control and your emergency lights. And for some reason, they chose to stick that Porsche Turbo specific mechanical spoiler button with the climate control. So when you press this button here, you essentially can see that your rear wing in the back essentially rises up and rises down. So exterior view, I showed you this, but essentially you can see it kind of closing up and closing in. And that's using this button right there. You do have a dual zone climate control here, so driver and passenger have their own climate options, so you can set temperatures on both sides depending on each person's preference. As you can see, both front passenger and driver side seats are heated and ventilated. And in the center of these hodgepodge of all these buttons, you do have your 7-speed Porsche PDK dual clutch auto manual transmission. Its shift knob is wrapped in that cognac natural leather, contrasting with this very high-end, high-tech looking silver trim all the way around. And around that silver trim, you do have the Panamera name and logo etched right into it. The shift knob is very easy to use. Essentially, you click down here, and essentially you shift up and down like an automatic. But if you're feeling sporty, you can shift it yourself by shifting this entire shift knob to the left and allowing you to shift with those steering wheel mounted controls or with the shift knob. Continuing down, here is essentially all my favorite buttons of your Porsche Panamera. I call these the fun buttons. So here you have your sport driving mode, and then you have your most aggressive setting that comes with the Sport chronograph package, which is the Sport Plus setting. You have 2 dampening options, a Sport dampening and then a Sport Plus dampening, which is the most extreme stiff dampening of those air suspension settings. With the Porsche air suspension, you do have the ability to lift the front end in case you need to clear steep driveways, so you can protect that Porsche Turbo Panamera front bumper. You can turn off traction control. This car is optioned with that almost $4,000 variable Porsche performance exhaust, and you can click this and it'll close and open the baffle, raising and lowering the volume of your Panamera Turbo's exhaust. And then right on top of that, this A button is essentially to allow you to turn off what some may find annoying, which is a stop start feature. So when the car comes to a stoplight, the engine shuts itself off to save gas. It was like an efficiency thing, but it can get annoying. So you can actually turn that off. Underneath here, you do have a cigarette lighter. I'm sure that can double as a charging port. And then there is a single, very sturdy cup holder for driver or passenger that truly does hold a drink in a very firm fashion. Much better than the ones that the cup holders I mounted on the dash. I like to put my key there. Continuing on, the cognac wrapped armrest here doubles up as a essentially a storage / charging port. So this charging port has a USB, an auxiliary output, and a 12-volt charging port. And it's lined in this rubbery, no-slip material, and allows you to store, all your knickknacks into that and close it up for safety. Great storage option. Driver and passenger both have this Alcantara wrapped side mirrors with this beautiful soft touch cognac / tan Alcantara material. Feels really good, feels really rich, and it looks really warm also. I really love the headliner on this Porche Panamera Turbo. You have a sleek rear view mirror. Up top here you do have your home link control, so you can program your garage door remotes via these buttons here. There are dome lights, and my other favorite feature of this portion is essentially you do have your powered sunroof controls. The inside Alcantara wrapped sunroof cover is manual, but the rest is powered, so you can tilt it up or you can open it all the way. And when you do open it all the way as such, there is a mechanical windscreen that deploys automatically to keep wind noise and air out of your face. But I love the sunroof. It's a great option, lets a lot of light in and a lot of air in for all your passengers in your Porsche Panamera. And if you do get cold, you can go and close that up. And if it gets too bright, same, you can close it manually. To the left of your steering wheel, you have your headlight controls. And although this is not, you don't need to stick in a key, this is essentially your essentially push, quote unquote, push to start. You don't need to stick anything in. You just merely turn this knob here that looks like a key. All your climate controls or climate exits are surrounded in that really heavy duty silver trim. And the vents feel very sturdy. They definitely are never going to break on you. This is a 2016 model. I'm reviewing it in 2025, so it's almost been 10 years old, and these vents look practically brand new. Let's take a look what life is like for your rear seat passengers in your 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. And here are the rear seats found within your Porche Panamera Turbo. Your rear seats of your Porche Panamera all feature a 2+2 seating setup, and the rear seat traditionally, usually people think of 4 doors and think 2 seats in the front, 3 seats in the back. That's not the case with the Panamera. The Panamera is essentially a 2+2, and the rear seats essentially have 2 integrated what I call bucket seats. Essentially, I look at it as 2 individual captain's chairs planted in the rear. Definitely gives it a really sporty look, but it does cut down on, again, driving an additional passenger in the middle. But again, that's what the Panamera is. And these 2 integrated, I call it captain seats or individual bucket seats, are essentially quintessential Porche Panamera, essentially a backseat interior look. Each of these seats are wrapped in that extended natural cognac leather. The rear seats are heated for your comfort. And as a reminder, at the top of each seat, there's a button in the back here. That's a silver trim. You can press that button there. And both seats fold flat, allowing you to either increase your hatchback space, or if you need to reach for trunk items from your interior cabin compartment, you can do that by lowering one of the seats. And when you're done, you just raise it right back up, and it clicks right back into place. Look great, feel great, and they are definitely functional. I like the look of them. Now let's see how they feel when you sit in them. The rear door panels of your rear seats have a similar setup as the front, just a more shortened version of it. You have that extended cognac leather with that wood grain trim in the middle. You have the silver door handle. The only difference is that you just have a lot less buttons. You only have one window switch here. And there's an integrated, what looks like here, I call it a trash bin, but I think that this was used for smoking purposes. But again, you could probably throw some coins in there. I don't think you want anyone smoking in your Porche Panamera, regardless of year. Just like the front, underneath the leather wrapped cognac door handle and armrest of the rear passenger side seat, there is a small integrated storage space for a phone or a wallet, and also that integrated, upgraded Burmester sound system integrated into the rear passenger's door panel, with, I assume here is probably another speaker for your rear seat enjoyment of passengers when they're listening to music and audio and otherwise. All right, let's hop into these seats and see if they are as comfortable as what they look like. And here I go. Close up this door panel here. Okay, and here I am in the back seat of the Porche Panamera Turbo. And I can confirm that these seats definitely look like race bucket seats, and they are definitely very, very comfortable. Probably one of the more comfortable rear seats in any four-door that I've sat in. Your rear seat passengers are treated to essentially a center divider that separates the two rear passengers. I kind of like that. Everyone has their own personal space. This car does have a quad zone climate control, so everyone can kind of control their temperature in each area via these switches here. Each rear seat passenger has not one, but two essentially AC and heat outlets for their enjoyment. These rear seats do feature a heated option, which is nice. Usually heated options is usually reserved for the front passenger. In the center portion here, I suppose that the rear passengers need to share this single cup holder here that's hidden away. Oh, no, they don't. There's an additional cup holder in the center console that essentially folds in and folds out. See that again. So wood trimmed, and then if you need to access this area, you click there. And I assume this is kind of like the charging station. There's a small little felt lined compartment here. There is a 12-volt power outlet and a cigarette lighter in case you do want to smoke cigars or your cigarettes or whatever else people are smoking nowadays, because there is a ashtray here. I assume this Porsche, first generation Porsche, was made during a time when I suppose smoking was still okay. It's very nice. I like how everything hides away. And there's that beautiful brown wood grain finish, contrasting that extended natural cognac leather. Very nice. In the center, there is a fold down leather wrapped armrest. Very, very comfortable for both rear seat passengers. And you can open up the top, and there is even more storage space inside there that is felt lined. Very nice. Let's close that up there. I love that. I currently have the driver's side seat essentially moved to a normal position, and I still have a good amount of knee room here. And this is not the extended wheelbase version, so even in the short wheelbase or normal wheelbase version of the Panamera, there's still plenty of room. So if you need even more room than this, there's definitely the extended wheelbase executive long wheelbase version of the Panamera. Up top, both passengers are treated to their own individual reading light, and they also have this nifty handle here to either hold on to dear life or to maybe hang up their suit and tie. The rear seat passengers are also treated to additional small storage space behind the driver and passenger side seats. You can definitely put something into there. And as far as headroom for your rear seat passengers goes, I'm about 5'7", 5'8" of normal height. And I do like the fact that the rear part of the Porche Panamera essentially has a huge hump that essentially actually really goes, it goes higher in the rear, allowing for much more headroom. So I can understand why Porsche did this, although by doing this, it gives the outer rear quarter panel of the hatchback area a funny look or awkward finish to it. It does give the rear seat passengers plenty of headroom, and I really do like that. No struggle here. I can really essentially I still have about like a good maybe like 3-4 inches before I hit the top of this soft-lined Alcantara wrapped headliner. But either way, this is a very comfortable rear seat in your Porsche Panamera. Your passengers are definitely going to be treated to a very opulent experience, and Porsche did a really good job creating their 2+2 Grand Touring 4-door coupe. And this is your rear seat view in your 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. Let's go ahead and start up this car. This car has a keyless ignition, so as long as you have your Porsche key within your vicinity, you can turn the knob to the left of the steering wheel to start up the Porche Turbo. So as with any other classic gas and gavel point of view car review, the first thing I love to do in any point of view drive is look for driving mode and where's the most aggressive track mode. And this Porche Panamera actually holds a surprise drive mode. So in other Porche Panamera models, the drive modes essentially are your base drive mode and a sport mode. But this car, because it is optioned with a very specific watch package, you are given a extra, I call it what Porsche likes to call Sport Plus mode, which is essentially like race mode to the extreme. And you can only get this much more aggressive additional driving setting if you option for the Sport Chrono package. And essentially the Sport Chrono package gives you this right here, this beautiful chronograph center mounted clock here. And along with that package, you get the additional driving mode. And basically the additional driving mode essentially does the following. Well, let me go back. By optioning the Sport Chrono package, you essentially get a the two normal drive modes, which is normal and sport, but you also get an exclusive Sport Plus driving mode. So to be clear, you can only get the Sport Plus driving mode if you option for the Sport Chrono package. And with the Sport Plus mode, it essentially gives you so in regular Porsche Panameras without the Sport Chrono package, you essentially get two factory drive modes, a regular drive mode and a sport drive mode. If you option for the Sport Chrono package, which gives you this analog center mounted chronograph clock in the center, it also gives you an additional exclusive, much more aggressive race mode called Sport Plus. In addition to that Sport Plus driving mode, you also get a launch control option for faster acceleration. You get more race inspired gear shifts and a dash mounted stopwatch, and there are performance displays for the PCM. You also get a much more aggressive, stiffer suspension setting for the Porsche air suspension, and you get a very special button called the Sport Response button, which is essentially a button on the dash that essentially gives you an instant boost of power when you need to overtake either a competitor or a on-ramp. Essentially, it's I equate it to like a NOS button, a la Fast and Furious. You click on a button and essentially the car kicks in a little more boost for a very, very short amount of time. It's designated like a few seconds, and essentially gives you just a huge boost of power. And in the Porsche handbook, that boost button is essentially used to help you essentially again overtake obstacles or pass other cars or whatnot. But again, that's a very, very cool option. And again, all these special features only come if you option with the Sport Chrono package with that clock. So that center clock there comes with a lot of really amazing goodies. So here we go. And you know that you have the Sport Plus mode because it's right underneath the Sport button here on the center dash. And when you click the Sport Plus button, you can definitely hear that variable exhaust open up. And on the damper mode, on the dampener settings, you actually have two red lights giving you two options: a aggressive sport mode, and of course the much more aggressively tuned suspension in Sport Plus mode for the dampers, which if you know me, I love the cannon carving, so I'm really looking forward to that. This car is also equipped with the variable Porsche performance exhaust. It is a nearly $4,000 factory option, but if you do option for that option in your Porche Panamera Turbo, you do get very sleek looking quad circle exhaust tips and the option to raise and lower the volume of your sport exhaust with a push of a button. Right here on the center dash area, there is a picture of an exhaust tip, and that's when you know that you have the Porsche aftermarket performance exhaust. So right now I'm having a Sport Plus and the most aggressive Sport Plus damping setting, and the exhaust baffles at full blast. So here we go, and let's go ahead and go for a test drive and see what this Porche Panamera Turbo is like. Let's start off with the acceleration. So with any turbocharged car, my first initial evaluation always is what's the turbo lag like? And in this car, I can define the turbo lag in this car as, does this car have turbo lag? Yes. Is it a lot of turbo lag? No. Is it noticeable? Yes. Is it bothersome? No. Essentially, when you step on the gas, there is a maybe 1 second delay before gobs and gobs and gobs of horsepower roll out. So again, a little bit of the turbo lag on the initial acceleration, but it's not enough to ruin your drive or ruin the your experience in this vehicle. It's just there, and you just have to push through it, literally with your foot. So acceleration, this car is fast. It's rated at 520 horsepower, 516 foot-pounds of torque. All that power is sent to all four wheels. And in addition, this car is equipped with the Sport Chrono package. And when you equip it with that, again, that center-mounted clock, you actually get faster acceleration times in the Porche Panamera Turbo. The 0 to 60 time goes from 3.9 to 3.6 seconds with the Sport Chrono package and the Sport Plus driving option. So the car definitely feels fast. My only complaint that I have about this car is that it goes fast, but it feels heavy. So a little background, I actually have test driven a Porche Panamera one time at a local CarMax when the Porche Panamera first came out, and I test drove I believe it was like a very base model with a base V6 and rear wheel drive. And my biggest complaint about that car when I test drove it was it essentially felt like I was driving a very heavy boat. And jumping into this turbo with almost maybe double the horsepower and four-wheel drive of the compared to the base Panamera, I was actually shocked to find that the car still feels very heavy. And this car is heavy. This car essentially weighs between 4,300 and 4,500 pounds depending on your configuration. And to me, although this car has the numbers there of 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, the car just feels very heavy getting there. And that would be my complaint. I can't really describe it. I can only describe the acceleration of this car as this car accelerates quickly. It does have a lot of power, but it just feels very heavy getting there. Another thing I noticed about the acceleration is that for this car, most of the most enjoyable power band is between, I would say, 2,000 RPM and a little under 5,000 RPM. What I found about this car is that I feel like Porsche designed this car and tuned this car as more of a luxury grand tourer to drive around town. It's not necessarily a canyon carver like we are here today, or some sort of drag strip like SRT Hellcat drag race monster. It's really not. It's again, it's just a luxury grand tourer for people who are seeking a more luxurious, refined experience with 4 seats and a hatch. And I would say that the acceleration in this car, I would rate it I'm debating between a 7.5 and an 8. It's up in the air. Again, you have 520 horsepower, but I feel like if you want to really feel better speed, I would option for the Turbo S, which the Turbo S, okay, I guess, let me get back on this road before I finish that thought. I would option for the Turbo S because, again, in my opinion, I still feel that this car, I'll be straight up about it. Acceleration is fast, but it still feels slow to me. And I would probably want an option for the Turbo S, where you get an additional almost 50 horsepower and an additional almost 50 foot-pounds of torque, putting the Porche Panamera Turbo into the 570, which this car right now is about 520 horsepower. And so again, acceleration 7.5 out of 10. Another reason why I suspect that the car may feel heavy is that this car from the factory should come with 19-inch wheels, but the person who spec'd this particular Panamera out spec'd it and added the optional 20-inch sport design 911 wheels. And obviously with a bigger diameter wheel package, 20-inch in this case, you get much more unsprung weight and so forth, so that may also be contributing to the feeling of heaviness in this car. But either way, again, acceleration, it's impressive, but it's nothing to write home about, and it does feel heavy getting there, although it is very enjoyable to go through the rev range in this car, especially with the turbocharged motor. So long story short, the power band on this car, 2,000, 5,000 RPM is a sweet spot, and it's very, very fun to drive between 60 and 90 miles per hour, but 90 to above or anything revving past 5,000 RPM, the car feels like it's huffing down. In fact, it feels like, although this car has a 6,500 RPM red line, it feels like the power starts dropping off around 5,000 RPM, and 90 to triple digit times, it does feel a little slow and heavy. but it's probably faster than 80% of cars on the road. So acceleration 7.5 out of 10. Brakes. This car has the 6-piston Porsche branded, but probably Brembo supplied stainless steel brakes, and they're definitely more than adequate. But there is an option of this car of adding the Porsche carbon ceramic brakes in the Porche Panamera Turbo. This car does not have it, but I can tell you right now that this car does not need it. I really love the braking feel of this of the stainless steel brakes, which are the standard brakes in the Panamera Turbo. They feel confident, but they don't overpower the car. And a car being this heavy, the brakes actually really do carry the weight very, very well. From hard decelerations to slow decelerations, the brakes are just really confident, really smooth, and I love how just stable the car is when you slow down. Whether you're slowing down from 30 miles per hour or trying to quickly slow down from 90 to 30, the brakes just feel very confident. It slows you down, and it slows you down in a way where it's just like the car is just like safe and stable and straight. I love the feel of these stainless steel brakes, and I can tell you right now that I've been driving over an hour and a half on and off on these brakes right now, and it's almost zero fade. So again, they feel great hot, they feel great cold, and I don't feel that you need to option for the carbon ceramic brakes in this car. But hey, if you got the money, why not? But the stainless steel brakes, I rate it a 9 out of 10 in the Porche Panamera Turbo, and they also look great with those huge cross-drilled rotors, front and rear. They're ventilated and cross-drilled, I believe. So let's talk sound. So sound is an area that disappointed me in this Porche Panamera Turbo. The first reason is I was actually very surprised. This Porche Panamera Turbo actually has the almost $4,000 Porsche performance factory, essentially race exhaust, and even at the most aggressive setting of the exhaust, which is essentially baffles fully open, the car just doesn't sound that great. It's this car, unfortunately, what you hear most of is this vacuum cleaner turbocharged spooling sound, and unfortunately that vacuum cleaner turbo spooling sound just happens to sound louder than the factory race exhaust, and sounds louder than noises coming out of the V8 motor itself. So again, it's odd because I was listening to clips of the Porsche Panamera GTS similar year, and that car is naturally aspirated, and that car sounds beautiful. So I can only, I guess, account for the lack of more aggressive sounds in this car due to the twin turbos that are mounted to the V8. So again, the car just really doesn't sound that great. I'm gonna go ahead and put the windows up and down for you, and you guys can be the judge of it. Here I go. As you can see, I am at the most aggressive setting of every drive mode, including the exhaust, and it is all I hear is turbo spooling and wind noise, and it's kind of shocking to me actually when you spend, again, 4,000 something on the on that factory race exhaust, and the fact that this is a twin turbo V8 pushing out 520 horsepower. You would expect some rumble, some vibration, but again, even at the most aggressive setting, I can barely hear the exhaust, and there's hardly a pop and hardly any gurgles coming from the exhaust. And I can tell you, driving through underpasses and tunnels, it's pretty boring in this Porche Panamera Turbo with the performance exhaust. So sound-wise, I would rate this car a 5 out of 10. It just doesn't sound aggressive enough, and I'm not sure why people would want to spend an extra $4,000 on exhaust that doesn't sound any louder. than stock. So sound in this car, a 5 out of 10. Another aspect of sound, cabin noise. This car actually has pretty good insulation, and that's one thing that I admire about Porsches, whether it's early Porsches or late Porsches. I feel like they built the cars just so well that everything just stays solid, and there's just a lot of insulation. I don't hear a lot of road noise. Even with the 20-inch optional wheels, there's hardly any road noise. I can hear myself think and relax in the cabin. Let those cars pass. So interior noise, as far as insulation goes, solid 8 out of 10. Let's talk steering. This car has, I love this, not only the look of the steering wheel, but I also love the feel of the handling and the steering. So anywhere you turn this car, it is very, very sharp. This car does have the Porsche 4-wheel drive system, but when you point the steering wheel to left or right, the car just carves it in like a very sharp knife, like here. It just feels really good, really solid. You feel very confident. The steering has great road feel. Some would probably complain that the steering wheel may feel a little bit heavy and requires a little bit of work, but I feel like whether it's in the most aggressive drive setting or the most comfort drive setting, I love the heavier feel of this, the steering on this car. It just gives you a lot of road feel, and it just feels really great when you're carving these canyons. Now the next subject of my review falls on my favorite category, and that is the suspension. And this car is most definitely very, very impressive in the suspension department. So this car is equipped with basically Porsche's air suspension that is also variable and adaptable, like in real time. In addition, the dampeners allow for 3 different types of settings: comfort, a sport, and a much more aggressive Sport Plus race setting. So I love the variability of the fact that if you're going through rougher roads, you can switch it over to comfort mode in the dampeners, and then when you want to carve the canyons in the most aggressive Sport Plus mode, you can put that into the most aggressive Sport Plus mode, and this car turns on a dime. I can tell you right now that when you put this car in Sport Plus mode, there is 0 body lean as such right now. It is just so even, and just it feels like I'm driving a Boxster or a 911 Carrera. And again, it's just so much more impressive that the handling is so great in this car, because I said before, this car is heavy and it is big. 4,500 pounds, 4 doors, and a hatch in the back. It's definitely a heifer, but with the Porsche air suspension in this car, especially in the Sport Plus mode, it just feels so nimble and so even. Acceleration, there's no squatting of the rear or the squatting of the front. Same thing with braking. Everything just feels just so balanced because of that Porsche suspension. And I also feel that this particular example that I'm test driving today handles also even better because it's optioned with the much more larger and much more wider Porsche 20-inch wheel options. I think it's like a 911 Carrera style or something like that. But my point is that wider track with the wider wheels with the 4-wheel drive, and just again that amazingly tuned Porsche active air suspension with all that variability, it just feels amazing. And I will confidently rate the suspension in this car a very solid 10 out of 10. From the adaptability to, again, just Sport Plus mode, it's just a thrill to drive, and it makes a very heavy bus feel like you're driving a very small Volkswagen Beetle. And the suspension is probably the highlight of this Porche Panamera test drive for me. So what it lacks for in acceleration, I believe that it more than makes up for in the suspension department. Amazing. I'm taking these curves now very aggressively, and it's just eating them up. Amazing. The seats in this car. So these seats are not meant to be race seats. So my two complaints about the seats are, number one, I wish that there was a little bit more thigh bolstering and a little bit more of the lumbar bolstering as far as like just holding me in. I do feel like I'm sliding in a lot of places. And I believe these are the base seats, but there are much more aggressive a Sport Plus option seats. But the base seats, I wish that there would be a little bit more just thigh support and lower lumbar support as far as just holding you in. But outside of that, comfort-wise, it's amazing. It has one of the best like electronic lumbar supports. I'm a huge lumbar guy, and this car has it. And it's also heated and ventilated. And it adjusts every which way, so it is definitely very comfortable. I just wish that it was more aggressively tuned, but it feels great, it looks great, and with that, again, that cognac natural leather, it just feels really soft and supple against your skin. And yeah, it definitely even looks great also. So I rate the seats 7 out of 10. I feel like if you need more aggressive settings for your seats, maybe option or look for an example in the used market that did option for the much more aggressive Porsche sport seats for the Panamera Turbo. Rearward visibility, I'll probably say pretty terrible in this car. Not only is the back end like very long away from you, there's a huge rear quarter panel plastic paneling that's blocking you. This car is a 2016 model, first generation Panamera, so there's not much in ways of like side mirror controls or rear view cameras and integrated into the rear visor. Again, it's very analog, so rearward visibility is pretty poor. So you definitely want to drive carefully. There is a detection warning in the side mirrors, but again, it's just it's a little hard to see in this car due to that long end. Let's talk Porsche PDK auto manual transmission. So I believe that the 7-speed, even though that's the first generation of the PDK, the second generation was upgraded to an 8-speed. I feel like the 7-speed dual clutch transmission does a very, very excellent job across the board, and it shifts very, very quickly in this car. So this car, when you do put it into a manual mode in the PDK, you can shift up and down using these little steering wheel mounted buttons. They're not quite power shifters, but they are essentially buttons that you can shift up and down with it, and I'm going to do that now. Downshifts right there, lightning quick. Upshifts, lightning quick. Oh yeah, the upshifts and downshifts are so satisfyingly quick on this, because when you upshift and downshift, you can see like the rev meter, and that rev meter just jumps up and down so quickly, matching the speed of the upshifts and downshifts like right now. I think it feels great, it accelerates great, and it's as enjoyable as as quick, maybe even quicker than a full manual transmission. So 7-speed Porsche PDK and the Porche Panamera Turbo, I rate it a solid 9 out of 10, especially with the versatility of being able to get lazy about it and driving automatically, but with the option of getting a little more sporty and shifting your own gears in manual mode. So again, fast, quick, and a solid 9 out of 10 in the transmission department. The first Pro of the 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo definitely is the fact that right now, as I'm reviewing this vehicle in the year 2025, the first generation, especially highest trim of the Porche Panamera first generation 970 and 970.2, their prices have essentially dropped. You can pick up a decent, even low mileage, well taken care of, either early or late model year first generation Porsche Panamera for less than the price of a brand new Toyota Camry or even a Toyota Corolla, depending on the specs, or even a Toyota Prius. My point is that right now in 2025, you can pick up a 500 plus horsepower, all-wheel drive, dual clutch, auto manual Porsche with the LED taillights, those carbon ceramic brakes, and all that Porsche has to offer in this very sleek four-door / five-door hatchback for less than the price of a fully loaded Toyota Camry or what I want to say is a normal passenger car. And there's nothing wrong with normal passenger cars. I love the Toyota Camry. I love the Nissan Sentra. They serve its purpose. But as a number one, car enthusiast, and number two, a person who is prescribing to the idea that life is very short and we can go anytime. Sometimes you just want to live a little. And I feel that picking up a used first generation Porsche Panamera, such as this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo, lightly used with a great PPI and a great service history, you can make out pretty well and have a very, very fun, almost exotic level of performance in a car for a price of what would be an entry-level vehicle in America today. And I'm going to address the con next. Obviously, maintenance is going to be a huge thing when you're picking up a used version of this Porche Panamera, especially in the higher trims with the turbos and the air suspension, and of course the carbon ceramic brakes. Again, at the end of the day, all those cons can be mitigated, and I'll address those in the con section. But again, the biggest pro is that we all only live once, and life is short, and sometimes it's worth the risk to buy that highly depreciated but very fun to drive and six-figure, almost sometimes even $200,000-$300,000 car here in 2025 for less than 30,000-40,000, maybe even less, depending on how much risk you're willing to take. And that's the biggest pro that I see, that this is better than a depreciation darling. It's a to me, just like a bargain price supercar for the price of a normal vehicle today in 2025. And if you play your cards right, you can get the equal amount of maintenance of a new car in a used Porsche if you do your research right. But we'll get into that. Anyways, biggest pro of the 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo is most definitely that depreciated prices have led to a lot of great low mileage examples. The first con of the Porche Panamera comes down to essentially the idea of, do you like to drive people around or you don't? Or maybe you're responsible for driving people around. Either way, that may be an issue. So one of the biggest complaints about the Porche Panamera is that although it is a four-door or even five-door hatchback sedan, the rear seats only accommodate 2 passengers. As a reminder, the center console is essentially split into 2 captain's chairs for the rear, and 2 in the front. So essentially, it comes down to this fact that if you do need to drive a lot of passengers, or maybe you have a family of 5, this Porsche Panamera may not be for you, because the rear seats, again, only seat 2, and the entire car itself, despite having 5 doors, only seats 4 people. So the con is that you can't fit a lot of people in this car. So if you do need to drive a lot of people, you might want to spring for a different 4-door Porsche, maybe the bigger SUV, either the Macan or the Cayenne. But the Porsche Panamera, the first con is rear seat space for passengers, because it only seats 2. The second biggest con of the 2016 Porsche Panamera Turbo, especially one that you buy in the used car market in 2025, the biggest con would be the fact that, yes, purchasing a used mid-mileage Porsche Panamera Turbo from 2016 and 2025 may not be the greatest idea. A lot of the parts, such as the air suspension, may or may not need to be maintained or even replaced. There are also stories of the Porsche Panamera e-hybrid with failing batteries, especially on the earlier first generation versions of that, and that battery can cost into 5 figures to replace, excluding labor, if you can even find one. The Porsche air suspension is no cheap feat. Each air strut can cost $1,000 to $2,000 in parts just to replace before labor, amongst a host of other issues that may not be Porsche specific maintenance issue, but can occur in these type of, like, I called it mid-mileage used supercars from the 2000s. But this con can be negated simply by doing your research, trying to purchase the most newest, lowest mileage, most well taken care of. Definitely get a pre-purchase inspection from a Porsche professional before you buy it. Get a lot of maintenance history records from the owner, and just do your due diligence. And you can definitely, for example, this is a 2016 first generation. It is essentially the newest of the oldest Porsches. So that's a great example of finding a later model first generation, maybe in the 2015 and 2016 model years, so that you deal with definitely a lot less maintenance issues. Whereas I feel like the earlier 2009s, 2010s may all be at a state where in 2025 may require a lot of costly maintenance issues. So again, it's a con, but this con can be negated through strategy, research, doing your due diligence, or at the end of the day, life is short. Just go for it, and just simply set aside $5,000 for the year, and so in case anything does go wrong, you have a little cushion to repair. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to beat a 500 plus horsepower all-wheel drive Porsche 2+2 with again 520 horsepower with the price of a probably even cheaper than a new Toyota Camry in 2025. So I'm just that type of enthusiast. I'd rather purchase a high mileage supercar than a newer, reliable, I don't want to say boring, because the Toyota Camry can be exciting, but you guys know what I mean. Sometimes you just want to live a little bit, and in order to have a little fun, sometimes you got to take a little risk. But you can negate those risks by doing your research, by doing all the above. So again, I call this a con pro. the buying a used Porsche Panamera in 2025, especially the first generation in the high trim levels such as a turbo, you may encounter maintenance issues from turbos to air suspension and otherwise. So buyer beware. I hope you guys enjoyed this review of this 2016 Porche Panamera Turbo. If you guys enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe to the Gas and Gavel YouTube channel. We truly do appreciate your support, and tune in next week for more enthusiast, performance, exotic, and possibly Porsche reviews.